Welcome to A Working Record. This is the May 2026 edition, issue number 3. The exit is not a choice. Continuity as currency, part 1. The exit cost is not a choice. We keep telling the story of women leaving the workforce, as if there is a clean moment of decision, a graceful step away, a chosen pause, timed, managed. But the numbers don't tell that story. They tell of something messier, quieter, harder to name. They tell a story of push, not pull. In the early months of the COVID-19 pandemic, over 2 million women in the United States left the labor force. By January of 2021, women's labor force participation had fallen to levels not seen since the late 1980s, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Not reduced hours, not flexible schedules, left. Research from McKinsey & Company and leanin.org found that 1 in 4 women were considering downshifting or leaving entirely at the height of pandemic strain. Many did not consider for long. Childcare system collapsed, schools closed, care needs surged into the home and stayed there. The labor market did not bend to meet the reality that caregivers were facing. It simply kept moving. Even beyond the acute shock of 2020-2021, the pattern holds. Data from the Pew Research Center shows that mothers remain significantly more likely than fathers to step out of the workforce, often citing caregiving disruptions, layoffs, or lack of flexibility, not preference. And when they leave, they don't come back quickly. Across OECD countries, estimates suggest that maternal career interruptions commonly last between 2 to 6 years, depending on childcare access, policy structure, and labor market conditions. 2 to 6 years. We call this a pause. But nothing else pauses. Not the promotion cycles, not the compounding raises, not the informal networks where opportunities circulate before they are posted. The system does not hold your place. It replaces your presence. It prices your absence. This is the first misconception the exit cost exposes. There is no such thing as a neutral absence. The moment you step out, the curve breaks. Not metaphorically, structurally. Your earnings stall while your peers continue to stack percentage increases on a higher and rising base. Your title holds while theirs advances. Your visibility drops to zero while theirs compounds through repetition, proximity, and visibility. And when you return, you do not return to where you left. You return to a market that priced your absence. This is where the language starts to fail us. We talk about wage stagnation, but stagnation suggests stillness. What's actually happening is displacement. You are not standing still. You are being repositioned downward relative to a moving system. The exit cost contains a salary reset anchored to your last visible value, an interruption penalty that lowers your future growth trajectory, a promotion clock that did not stop, only excluded you, a tenure system that now reads you as behind, not returning. And beneath all of it, something less discussed, a loss of market validation. Because labor markets do more than pay you, they price you, they signal your relevance, they confirm your value, they reflect your worth to the labor market in the form of compensation, title, and trajectory. When you exit, that feedback loop disappears. No performance reviews, no raises, no external confirmation that your skills are increasing in value, only silence. At the same time, your network begins to loosen. You miss the meeting where the new initiative is mentioned, the casual check-ins that become job prospects, the repeated exposure that builds trust over time. These are not losses you can track on a balance sheet, but they accumulate. Opportunity is not just about skill. It is about proximity to decision makers and information centers. The exit has created the barrier to reentry. And yet, even now, the response from the top remains remarkably consistent. Work harder, stay visible, stay close, stay present, stay seen. In a recent round of interviews, Emma Greed argued against work from home, stating, careers require proximity and visibility. But why? In 2026, why does career ascension require proximity and visibility? This is the part worth examining. Proximity and visibility are not natural laws, they're chosen metrics. These are the signals that leaders decide to reward, to reinforce. These leaders have the power to redefine performance by productivity. With technological precision, they know how long it took each of us to accomplish our task, our stated goals, how long we spent on our standing breaks and our internet side quest. They possess all the data to make informed decisions based on actual productivity, but instead are preserving the same structure that filters opportunity toward those with uninterrupted time, physical presence, and fewer caregiving constraints. This is not a failure of awareness. It is a choice of alignment. Leaders could easily decide that productivity is the dominant metric, but the uninterrupted worker is still privileged. Namely, the male worker is privileged. The system is not neutral. It is selective, and identity alone does not interrupt that pattern. Emma Greed is a woman who identifies as Black, and she is a mother. By her own account, she employs hundreds of women, and yet as a manager and owner doesn't alter these rules for her own workforce. Her message is no different from the men in the room. Optimize harder, stay visible, stay in the room, even when the room was never designed to hold you. So when we frame workforce exit as a choice, we flatten all of this into a single moment of decision. We ignore the conditions that made staying untenable. We ignore the system that made leaving costly. We ignore the fact, for many, there was no real alternative. The more honest framing is this: the exit is not a pause, it is a forced detachment from systems that compound value. And the longer that detachment lasts, the more the system adjusts without you. This is why the temporary exit is one of the most persistent myths in modern labor economics. Temporary suggests reversible, but the labor market does not rewind, it recalculates. And this is the risk we are not naming clearly enough, not just for individual women, but for the structure of the economy itself. Because when exits become widespread and when millions step out, not by preference, but by pressure, the system is not just reallocating labor, it is mispricing it at scale, underutilizing experienced workers, breaking career paths midstream, shrinking the pipeline to leadership without ever formally closing it. We tend to focus on the moment of return, how to re-enter, how to recover, how to explain the gap. But the deeper question sits earlier, at the point of exit itself. What happens when the system makes leaving easier than staying and returning harder than expected? This is not an individual problem. It is a structure. It is systemic. The cost of exit does not begin when you come back. It begins the moment you leave, and it compounds whether you are there to see it or not. Thank you for listening. You can access the numbers, modeled scenarios, charts, and frameworks at my Substack. Subscribe for deeper insights. I'll be here next month as we continue examining the Motherhood Cost Loop, specifically the reentry cost. Thank you for listening to A Working Record.